Hong Kong Diploma of Secondary Education, 2024. English Language, Paper 3, Listening and Integrated Skills. Instructions to Candidates. You should have on your desk a Part A question-answer book, a Part B1 data file with a Part B1 question-answer book inserted, and a Part B2 data file with a Part B2 question-answer book inserted. Do not open them until you are told to do so. I repeat, do not open the question-answer books or the data files until you are told to do so. Now write your candidate number in the space provided on page 1 of your Part A question-answer book. Now look at the Part A question-answer book. Check that the Part A question-answer book has no missing pages. Look for the words, "End of Part A." Now go on to Part B on the last page. Now, stick your barcode labels in the spaces provided on pages 1, 3, and 5. Close your Part A question-answer book when you have finished. Now look at your Part B1 data file. Take out the inserted Part B1 question-answer book. Check that your Part B1 data file has no missing pages. Look for the words, "This is the last page of the Part B1 data file," on the last page. Now write your candidate number in the space provided on page 1 of your Part B1 question-answer book. Check that the Part B1 question-answer book has no missing pages. Look for the words, "End of Part B1" on the last page. Now stick your barcode label in the space provided on page 1. Close the Part B1 question-answer book when you have finished. Now look at your Part B2 data file. Take out the inserted Part B2 question-answer book. Check that the Part B2 data file has no missing pages. Look for the words, "This is the last page of the Part B2 data file," on the last page. Now write your candidate number in the space provided on page 1 of your Part B2 question-answer book. Now check that the Part B2 question-answer book has no missing pages. Look for the words, "End of Part B2" on the last page. Now stick your barcode labels in the spaces provided on pages 1 and 3. Close the Part B2 question-answer book when you have finished. You are reminded that all examination materials will be played once only. This paper is divided into 2 parts, Part A and Part B. For Part A, you should use a pencil to answer all questions. For Part B, you can use a pen or a pencil. Put up your hand now if you have any difficulties. It is not possible to handle complaints after you have taken the paper. The listening component is about to begin. Keep your earphones on until you are told to take them off. Open your Part A question-answer book at page 3. Part A is about to begin. Part A. In Part A, you will have a total of 4 tasks to do related to the theme of human migration. Follow the instructions in the question-answer book and in the recording to complete the tasks. You will find all the information you need in the question-answer book and the recording. You now have 2 minutes to familiarize yourself with tasks 1 to 4. Task 1. Grace and Stephen are visiting a museum to decide which exhibitions they can recommend for their school history field trip. Listen to their conversation and complete the information in the spaces below. The first one has been provided as an example. You now have 30 seconds to study the task. At the end of the task, you will have 1 minute to tidy up your answers.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
That's okay.
So, what have you found out while you have been waiting?
Well, it seems they have a big exhibition about the great human migration from Africa. It's on for another few weeks, until the end of April.
Sounds good. So, how much does it cost?
Well, it's only $50 to enter. I bought us 2 tickets already.
Oh, okay. I'll give you the money later. What else did you find out?
Well, it's closed on Mondays. Oh, and importantly, we can't take photos.
Okay, let me make a note of all this. I've brought my iPad. Okay, so you say we can't go on Mondays or take photos. Right. Okay, but I agree it's a really interesting topic, and $50 seems very reasonable. Plus, if it's on until April 30th, that's perfect for our field trip. Okay, we can go and check it out.
Great.
Okay, so where are we now?
Right. So, we're standing in the Great Hall. Oh, look, there's the exhibition on the Great Human Migration. You see? There, next to the exhibition on early transportation.
Where? Opposite the Egyptian room?
What? No, on the other side.
Where do you see it? I still can't see it.
There, look, see the sign.
Ah, okay, I see it now. Right, well, let's go and have a look. Have you got my ticket?
Here you are.
Okay, this looks great. Where do we start?
Look over here. Wow. It says that early modern humans lived in Africa for a really long time. Then around 70,000 years ago, they began to migrate from Africa.
Right. So apparently, they started in Africa and then they started to move to other continents. And all this happened 70,000 years ago. And how do you think they traveled? There were no cars or aeroplanes back then.
Well, it says here they traveled mostly on foot to reach Asia. They needed to use canoes to cross the water to Australia.
Yeah, but what route did they take? I mean, how did they actually get to Australia? It's such a long way.
Good question. Well, it says here they got there in stages by going from island to island.
Oh, I see. So they used their canoes to travel from island to island before reaching Australia. Right. And presumably they did the same going from Asia to America. Or maybe they just swam?
No. Look at this part of the map. You see? Early humans reached America on foot, using a land bridge from Asia during the Ice Age. Now the ice has melted. The bridge has disappeared.
I'm noting this down. So, they used canoes from island to island to get to Australia and walked across a land bridge to get to the American continent. Interesting.
Right? Now we know where these early migrants came from and more or less when it happened. But we still don't know why they chose to move away from their homes in Africa.
Look, the display next to the map might help. It says that possible reasons for migration include lack of food or fighting with other humans.
Ah, I see. So they needed to move to find food and escape from other humans who they were fighting with.
Yeah, right. Let's have a look at the last bit of this exhibit. It looks like it's about some of the effects of the Great Migration and what humans learned to do. Look at this display here about how humans adapted to their new environments. You know, by clothing themselves, designing weapons for hunting, building homes, and learning how to farm for food.
Yeah, this is all amazing. I mean, we have never learned about any of this in school.
Yeah, I know.
That is the end of Task 1. You now have 1 minute to tidy up your answers. Task 2. Listen to a lecture from Professor Elsa Larson, an expert in human migration, on a famous expedition. Complete the information in the spaces below. The first one has been provided as an example. You now have 30 seconds to study the task. At the end of the task, you will have 1 minute to tidy up your answers.
Hello and welcome to today's Museum Experiences lecture, in which I'm going to talk about the Pacamona expedition. For those of you who are taking notes, let me spell that out for you. That's 2 words, P-A-Q-U-A and M-O-N-N-A. This is a very interesting example of how one man set out to explore one of the great mysteries of human migration. That is, how Polynesia, a huge area of islands in the Pacific Ocean, came to be home to people with similar language and customs. At that time, most experts thought that people from Polynesia had originally come from Southeast Asia. However, one Danish explorer who wasn't convinced by this idea decided to take action. His name was Lars Jensen, and it's his story I want to talk about today. Jensen was sure that the Polynesian islands were settled by people traveling from South America, and his theory was that people from South America traveled to Polynesia in boats and sailed from South America across the Pacific Ocean to Polynesia. So, he decided to build a wooden boat and prove his theory by sailing the boat from South America himself. He set about the task by thinking carefully about the materials he needed to build his boat and planning the route he'd take. He also had to think about how many people he'd need on his team. He realized that his boat needed to be light and strong. So he used a native South American wood, which was known for its lightness and strength. His wooden boat measured 14 meters long and 5 meters wide. That's 14 in length by 5 in width, and it had a big sail to catch the wind. He named the boat Pacamona after an Inca god and left with a crew of 6 from Chile in May 1950. In order to show that ancient humans could have made this journey, the crew didn't use any modern equipment. Instead, they relied on the stars for navigation. Using the stars to navigate across vast stretches of ocean was in fact one of the remarkable skills of these early human migrants. To survive on their journey, Jensen and his crew caught fish for food and drank water from bamboo containers. He also took a journal with him to record the experiences of the journey. They traveled west, using the stars to guide them, and after almost 3 months at sea, sighted land. Unfortunately, a few days later the weather worsened, and there was a big storm for 4 days and nights. The storm caused the crew a lot of problems. They couldn't fish for food, and the bamboo water containers broke, leaving them with hardly any water to drink. Even worse, they lost their sail, so they couldn't go any further. Eventually, they crashed on some rocks and had to be rescued by people from a nearby island. Many scientists continue to disagree with Jensen's ideas, saying that his ideas can't be true because modern Polynesian culture is so different from what you find in South America. An example of this is religion, which is very different in the two places. Nevertheless, recent research in genetics has shown that some Polynesians living now have similar genes to South American people. This helps to prove
that Jensen's theories were quite accurate, even if things like the languages the two groups speak have no connection whatsoever. So that is the story of Lars Jensen and his expedition. Please join me next week for another museum experience.
That is the end of Task 2. You now have 1 minute to tidy up your answers. Task 3. Listen to a podcast interview with Philip, Charles, and Anna, who are talking about their experiences as language learners. Complete the information in the spaces below. You now have 30 seconds to study the task. At the end of the task, you will have 1 minute to tidy up your answers.
Philip, Charles, Anna, many thanks for joining me on today's language learning podcast, in which we're going to discuss the topic of heritage language learning. First of all, and for all our listeners who may not know what this means, can you tell us, Philip, what is heritage language learning?
It's great to be here, thanks. So, I think we all know what language learning is. For example, we learn languages at school, from our friends from other countries, or because we need another language for work. Heritage language learning is a little bit different.
Yeah, it's different because it means we're all learning languages that are strongly connected to our cultural backgrounds.
I see. So, unlike those who just learn a language for work or because they're forced to, you're all learning a language from your cultural background. In other words, your heritage. Charles, is that how you understand it?
Yeah, that's right. Like, my family migrated to the U.S. from Peru 100 years ago in the 1920s, so that's why I'm learning Spanish.
Yeah, I suppose I'm quite similar to Charles, but my family migrated to England rather than the USA in the 1960s. They're a Chinese family from Singapore originally, and so that's why I'm learning Mandarin.
So Charles is learning Spanish. Anna, you're learning Mandarin. And Philip, how about you? What language are you learning?
My family are originally from southern Belgium, before they moved to Yorkshire in the north of England. So I am learning French.
Okay, the south of Belgium, so French. Can I ask then, apart from the strong cultural connection you have, what are some of the other reasons you have for learning your heritage language? Philip, can I start with you?
Sure. Well, for me, I was asked to give a speech at my cousin's wedding in Belgium. I learned French at school in England and everything, but I didn't think that was enough. So I needed to improve my speaking and grammar for the big day.
Ah, I see. So you needed to impress all your relatives at the wedding. How about you, Charles?
Well, I wanted to explore my identity. We all know that language is connected to identity, so I wanted to explore my Peruvian identity through learning Spanish. I guess that's the same for others, is it?
For me, it wasn't really about identity, but it was more for speaking with my grandparents back in Singapore. I want to be able to speak Mandarin with them so I can get to know them better.
So by learning Mandarin, you can chat with your grandparents. Sounds like a good reason to me. Oh, I almost forgot. How have you all been learning? I mean, what methods have you mainly been using? Anna?
I found a language exchange partner where I live who speaks to me in Mandarin.
Okay, a language exchange partner seems like a good way to learn. How about you, Philip?
I've been learning French with a textbook. This works well for me because I want to learn lots of grammar and vocabulary. Plus, I quite like learning on my own.
A textbook, huh? I hope you found a good one. Charles, what methods have you been using?
Well, I have lessons every week with a private tutor. It's expensive, but she's a really, really good teacher. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Every week with a private tutor? You must be speaking like a native by now. Okay, so moving on to the next question. What are some of the difficulties you've found when learning your heritage language as an adult? Let's stay with Charles.
Well, for me, I'd say the greatest difficulty is learning all the vocabulary. There are still so many words I don't know, but I'm trying to improve by using a language learning app on my way to work. Anna?
I use an app as well to help me learn new words, but the biggest problem I have is with reading and writing Chinese characters. So I really need to practice every day, and I do that by writing a daily diary in Chinese.
That's a great idea. I'm sure by writing your thoughts down in your diary every day, you can really learn those Chinese characters in no time. How about you, Philip?
My difficulty is a bit different from the others, and it's to do with listening. No one in my family speaks much French, so I can't practice my listening with them. Luckily, though, I found a really good YouTube series in French, which I watch every week. It helps me to hear, the natural rhythms of the language.
YouTube's really useful for language learners, isn't it?
Yes, but you have to watch it regularly, like every week. Otherwise, it's not enough.
Okay, so my final question is, what message would you have for those who are thinking of learning a heritage language? Charles?
Well, I'd say it's never too late to learn. I didn't start until I was already in my 30s. I mean, most people say it's better to start young, but I disagree. I'm much better at learning Spanish as an adult than as a child. How about you, Anna?
I agree with Charles, but I guess my message would be motivation is everything. Without motivation, you'll never succeed. Connecting with my Chinese heritage motivates me so much, not least being able to visit and talk with my relatives in Singapore.
Motivation is everything. A strong and important message, Anna. Thanks. How about you, Philip?
That's a hard one. I suppose my message would be, there's not one right way of learning. It's hard learning a new language, especially if you haven't got much opportunity to practice. I mean, you have to be ready to try out lots of new ways to learn, as well as what you've always done.
Good messages from you all, and Philip hits the nail on the head, I think. There's no single right way to learn a language, and we should all try out different ways to succeed. Well, that's about all we have time for today. Join us next time for another exciting podcast.
That is the end of Task 3. You now have 1 minute to complete your answers. Task 4. Listen to a radio program about Chunyun, the period where millions of people travel during the Chinese Spring Festival, and answer the questions below. Please note that you do not need to answer in complete sentences. You now have 30 seconds to study the task. At the end of the task, you will have 3 minutes to tidy up your answers.
It's a long-held tradition for Chinese people to travel to their hometowns and reunite with their families during the Spring Festival. This annual migration is known as Chunyun in Chinese, and it's the largest annual human migration on Earth. More people travel at that time than the entire population of the United States. In fact, an estimated 400 million people travel during this period each year. In today's program, we'll find out how Chinese people prepare for this mass migration, along with some of the problems they encounter as they move across the country. In the past, most mainland Chinese people didn't have to travel far to be with their relatives during Spring Festival, as most ordinary people lived in the towns in which they were born. However, economic reforms in the 1980s meant that many people left their hometowns to work in the big cities. The Spring Festival became the only time they could return home. In addition, in recent decades, the number of university students studying outside their hometowns has increased, adding even more to this mass migration of people. Moreover, as air travel within China is still too expensive for many, the railway and road networks have to cope with most of these travelers. Looking specifically at travelers who use the trains, there are two main issues which these travelers have to face. The first hurdle those traveling by train must face is simply buying a ticket, because they sell out so quickly, especially nowadays that they are on sale online. Secondly, there's the risk of accidents, as overcrowded trains inevitably mean that many people have to stand. With both these difficulties, the scarcity of tickets, along with safety issues due to the crowded trains, Chunyun is certainly a stressful time for all. Given these issues and the stress it all entails, you might expect people's experiences to be entirely negative. However, what you find is that people are often supportive of each other and try their best to help their fellow travelers. For instance, one traveler heading to Inner Mongolia tells of how a drunk man on his train fell asleep and couldn't be woken up in order to get him off at his stop. The next station was only 30 minutes away, so the other passengers found his phone and called his family to come and meet him at the next stop. A student traveling during Chunyun also tells of people's kindness, despite the stress of their journeys. Standing on a crowded train, he noticed that his money had been stolen by a pickpocket. Without any money to buy food during the 12-hour journey to Wuhan, he called his parents, telling them what had happened and how hungry he was. A stranger overheard his phone conversation. Then the stranger offered to share his lunchbox. I know how tough it is traveling as a student. This is my way of paying it forward, the stranger said. By bringing so many people together as they travel across the country, stories of romance also emerge from Chunyun. A young woman traveling home from Shanghai noticed a student sitting opposite her as he was reading one of her favorite books. When the other passengers left the train, a seat opened up beside the student, so she decided to make her move. They got chatting about their love of reading and decided to keep in touch. They are now husband and wife. So, with these three stories, we can see that Chunyun isn't all about stress and hardship. Finally, we asked our listeners for their suggestions as to how best to cope with traveling during this period. The responses were quite interesting, so here they are. First, people said to just avoid Chunyun altogether. In fact, a growing number of people are doing just that by staying where they are. Other listeners said that they choose to reduce the cost of traveling by sharing their car with friends and strangers. Another listener commented that international travel during Spring Festival is also increasingly popular as people try to escape the crowds back home. For most, however, Chunyun's simply part and parcel of the Spring Festival. In the same way that many people in Europe and the US battle traffic to see Grandma at Christmas, many Chinese are willing to battle the crowds at the bus depot, train station, or airport. In the end, the reward of spending time with loved ones who they haven't seen all year makes all the stresses of Chunyun worth it.
That is the end of Task 4 and of Part 3A. You now have 3 minutes to complete your answers to Task 4 and to tidy up all your other answers. Part B. Look at page 2 of your data file. Situation. You are Nico Lin. You work for World City Travel, a company which organizes wildlife tours in Hong Kong and around the world. You are a secretary to the manager at World City Travel, Ms. Avery Go. Miss Go has asked you to do some tasks. You will listen to a Zoom meeting between Miss Avery Go, the CEO of World City Travel, Mr. Shane Lee, and biologist Dr. David Atkinson. Before the recording is played, you will have 5 minutes to study the question-answer book and the data file to familiarize yourself with the situation and the tasks. Complete the tasks by following the instructions in the question-answer book and on the recording. You will find all the information you need in the question-answer book, the data file, and on the recording. As you listen, you can make notes on page 3 of the data file. You now have 5 minutes to familiarize yourself with the question-answer book and the data file. The recording is about to begin. Turn to page 3 of the data file.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to our monthly Zoom meeting. How are we all doing today?
Morning, Shane. I'm feeling great so far. Thank you.
I wish I could say the same, David. We have quite a bit going on at the moment, so it's been a busy period for me.
Let's get right into it then, shall we? The guided nature walk at the Hong Kong Wetland Park is coming up soon. Have we finalised all the details yet?
Yes, the guided nature walk will be held on the 27th of April at 10 a.m.
OK, April 27th at 10 a.m. A very sensible time to meet.
And as usual, the walk will be 2 hours long.
2 hours? Sounds about right. Is the meeting venue still the main entrance of the park?
No, we decided that the main entrance is much too busy. The meeting venue this time will be the visitor centre.
I agree. The visitor centre is a much better choice. Another sensible decision.
We'll email all the details to the participants soon.
Now that all the details of the guided nature walk are finalised, shall we move on to the bird-watching tour at the Hong Kong Botanical Gardens? I think we're planning to write an email to Peter Chan, the manager of the Botanical Gardens.
Yes, I remember that this is a tour we tend to start bright and early in the morning. 7:30 a.m., isn't it?
I believe that's not the case anymore, Shane. Am I right, Avery?
Yes, David, you're right. We're changing the time of the bird-watching tour from 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. We need to inform Peter Chan of this change in the email.
From 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.? That's quite a big change. I'm sure Peter will want to know why. What will you tell him in the email?
Well, we have some important reasons for the change in time. Quite simply, not enough people are signing up to join the birdwatching tour.
Clearly, it's a big problem if there are not enough people signing up to join the birdwatching tour. We definitely want to increase the number of people signing up. So you think this is because the tour starts too early?
Exactly right. Actually, we've had complaints from participants in previous tours that the birdwatching tour starts too early.
OK, I see. Well, if we've had complaints that the tour starts too early, then changing the time is the right decision. I suppose an early start isn't for everyone. That's settled then. Anything else I need to know about the tour?
No, I think that's it.
All right then. Let's move on to a slightly less fortunate topic.
Are you referring to the accident the World City Travel catamaran was involved in? Captain Moby is a good friend, and I heard a little bit about it from him.
Yes, David, you're right. I was referring to the catamaran accident in Sydney Harbour.
Such a shame. The catamaran is such a beautiful boat. I hope the damage wasn't too bad.
Well, speaking of which, we need to write the incident report. How's the review board's investigation on Captain Moby going? Have they reached a conclusion yet?
That's the good news. I've been sent the results of the review board's investigation, and the conclusion is that Captain Moby is not at fault.
Captain Moby not at fault. He will be so relieved to hear that.
That's not all, David. The review board has also insisted that we explicitly mention in the incident report that Captain Moby was extremely professional in handling the situation.
Oh, wow. He must have done an amazing job for them to say that. But then, knowing Captain Moby, I'm not surprised. He is indeed extremely professional.
We're lucky to have him with our company.
The accident also caused the cancellation of the next Sydney whale watching cruise. We've informed the participants about the cancellation, but we need to write a follow-up email to them. We should talk about compensation.
Of course. Reputation is everything in our business. and I don't want people to have a bad impression of us because of this incident. So I want to go the extra mile for this. As part of the additional compensation package, on top of what we've pledged already, we'll be giving participants of the cancelled cruise lifetime membership of World City Travel.
Lifetime membership of World City Travel? What does that include?
It's a great deal. With lifetime membership, participants can get a 30% discount on all tours that we provide. For life.
30% off is an amazing deal. How can I get lifetime membership?
Well, hopefully that will help us put all this behind us. We have a lot to look forward to with our new Insects and Reptiles exhibition.
Yes, that's right. We need to continue promoting the new Insects and Reptiles exhibition. David, you had an idea about the dragonflies in the exhibition. Can you tell us a bit more?
Of course. Generally, people see a lot of dragonflies around Hong Kong, especially in parks. But we have two very special ones people will encounter at the exhibition.
And they are?
Well, first we will have the red baller at the exhibition. And along with that, people will get to see the bluetail. You can see pictures of them on the website.
Red baller and bluetail. Those are very interesting names for very interesting dragonflies.
They are. And to encourage people to look out for them, we will also have a photo-taking competition.
Oh yes, you told me about this photo-taking competition when we were at lunch last week. I think you said the best dragonfly photo wins $500.
Yes, that's right. The participant with the best dragonfly photo wins $500. This should add a little excitement for the participants.
I didn't know you two were meeting for lunch now. What next? Anyway, there is one last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up the meeting. Our new adventure fishing tour starts soon in Sydney. Last time we discussed adding stops along the route. What became of that, Avery?
Right, so during the adventure fishing tour, the yacht will stop at 2 white sand beaches.
2 white sand beaches? Any particular reason for this choice? Why not on some sort of outlying islands?
That's because participants can catch shellfish at these stops. We chose these 2 beaches especially for that.
That's very clever, Avery, choosing places where participants can catch shellfish. I'm sure they'll love this idea. Anything to add, David?
Only that we're very lucky to have Avery with us.
I know, David, we certainly are. All right, I think we are good for now. Let's get to work and prepare the necessary documents. We'll meet again on Zoom next month, but let's keep in touch in the meantime. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That is the end of the listening component of this paper. You will now have 1 hour and 15 minutes to complete the written tasks in either Part B1 or Part B2. An announcement will be made when time is up. Take off your earphones now and turn off the radio.